That music is so serene.
I think I picked the right choice, didn't I?
It's transportative. Is that a word?
It
I
is
feel
now.
as though I've been transported. I've been whisked away to a magical land where problems no longer persist. Everything is soft and fluffy, and everything tastes like caramel. Hi, this is the Spec Sheet. I'm Michael. He's Curtis, and this is a show where we talk about technology, or as you call it when you're one of the cool kids and you've been down this road a few times, tech. And by the way, I thought this would be interesting to make the audience aware of is the fact that you can call the show tonight. And there's a number to do that. It is 412-535-4305. I have no idea how well that's going to work. We've not even done a test phone call. And
No.
Curtis, you had the right idea when I mentioned this to you before the show. Let's just take the phone calls, see how well it works. If it doesn't work well, we'll just fix it while we're doing the show.
Right.
That is technology, or tech, as you call it.
I've never really felt uncomfortable with the word tech until you just described it. And now I'm wondering, where do I fit in this? Am I cool enough to say tech? Can you send me that number again? I'll just put it at the bottom of the...
Because how would you like me to send it to you? I can just send it verbally. Do you want to just
okay, hold on.
You
then.
tell me when you're ready, and I'll read it off to you, and you can
I'm
just
not ready.
hammer it into some dialogue box.
Yeah, give me...
Which
okay,
I
here.
assume is what you're on the cusp of doing.
You are correct. Call
I chose. It's a totally random number. I don't know where the 412 area code even is, and I suspect this number is likely to change from one show to the next.
That's fine. That is part of the adventure. Can you call us?
Pittsburgh, hey.
You're on the line. Okay, so what is it? 412.
We are in Pittsburgh.
Well, that's where all the good podcasts about tech
Oh, are
come
you
from.
ready? Are you
I'm
ready to
now.
receive? Okay, 412-535-4305 is the phone number. If you'd like to be on the show, you can ask us technology questions. If you'd like to do some troubleshooting, perhaps there's something that's just really eating your lunch and you need some help. Well, there is a lot of experience on this side of the screen right now, so we'd love to help you with those issues. And visit our website, specsheet.tech. It is specsheet.tech. There you'll find links to pretty much everything that we want you to know about, including our YouTube channel. I think tonight we're also streaming to my YouTube channel, my personal YouTube channel, but our focus, that's just for the purpose of getting as many eyeballs as possible. But our real focus is the actual YouTube channel of this show, which you can get to by going to specsheet.tech, and clicking the appropriate links. That'll take you there.
Actually, I don't think that's correct for how to get to us right now. There is
That's right.
Let me just double check where
I
that takes you
forgot.
to. Because I
we don't
think
have our
you
website
sold,
anymore.
if I remember right, you sold our
we didn't
domain
pay
to
our
what? Was it a
bills.
gambling website or?
Are they selling spicy Asian beefs?
Yeah,
think,
that's what it is.
That's what
Yeah.
usually happens when your domain name gets squatted.
Yeah.
Specsheet.tech. Let's see what happens when I go there. Am I going to buy spicy Asian beef?
From Pittsburgh.
It takes me to
Yeah, it's just a landing.
a /lander page. So somebody has scooped it up, right?
Yep.
It's a rather auspicious start to our new broadcasting pursuit.
It's
We lost our
because of
domain
how
name. We didn't
well,
really care that much. I mean, if we cared that much, we would have done everything in our power not to let that happen. We're just so chill about things that this isn't really something that got under our skin too terribly much. We've got other domains as well. Don't we have the original domain still?
Yeah. Just go to isthisSecure.com. That'll get you to us. The
Does it
email
really?
address there.
Is this secure.com? Let's see what happens. Oh, hey. Oh, that's got some of our old shows. So this is not a representation of what was our current website, but this still has the, well, this really doesn't have any of the links, does it? It has links to our past shows, that's it.
So here's the thing.
So are we going to change our show's name back to this then?
No, we'll go ahead and update it to Spec Sheet. I think at this point, let's not keep going back and forth on it. This domain will change to be, it'll still be Is This Secure, but we'll have Spec Sheet and all of our links on there. So You heard it here first. That's the domain to go. But like, if you want to catch our old episodes of like the interim testing out the format, listen to those quickly because that'll go away at some point in the near future.
I really do need, though, to find a way. One of the things I don't like about running audio between my phone and this Rodecaster Pro 2.
What were you going to call it? The Rodecaster or Crapper?
Well, it's
because they all work.
Let's just say there was a neurological event that occurred.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that there's no charging occurring here. Why should this Rodecaster not at least push enough current to keep my battery from going down? At least push enough to keep it just sort of level. I'm not saying my phone needs to fast charge when I plug into this mixer, but Christ almighty, can I at least not watch my devices die as I plug them into this thing? I refuse to believe that when they put these USB ports on this thing, that they strayed so far from the official USB spec that it's not capable of pushing power to my phone. I don't believe that. I think it's just a matter of they have not turned it on. Why, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? And the power supply is like an 80-watt power supply.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that this ARM SoC inside the Rodecaster is definitely not chewing up all 80 of those watts. I think you can send about 15 watts to my phone and charge
shoot
this
a couple
damn
of those
thing.
watts my direction.
I'm going to have to bookmark this portion of tonight's show and send that to Rode. And listen, we have tens of listeners, and they all heard me complain tonight about your product. I think you're going to want to do something about this. So
we need
call
them
us
also,
up, 412-535-4305, 412-535-4305. What
did I get it right,
say, Curtis?
Did I get it right? If you look on the little bug in the corner, does it?
Oh, I didn't notice that. Look at that. I see it. I assume the audience
if you see it,
as well.
the audience can see it too. I want to make the text like it's bugging me that it's never mind. The aesthetic is just crappy on it, but
I think the I in the word "in" is so much thicker than the two L's at the end of "call." That's what's bothering you.
It's part of it. Here, hold on. I'm just going to move it all to one line.
Well, I thought I had my finger on the pulse of exactly what the problem was here. I think now I've missed the mark clearly.
Yeah, let's start over. Start over. Here, hold on.
Curtis is modifying in real time.
I have too many issues with it.
If you're wondering, we use something called Restream.io in order to put the two of us together and then send that merged video conference off to YouTube or wherever. There are probably 10 different streaming services you can have it forward your video over to.
What?
And now it's gone entirely.
Yeah, well, no, because Apple Intelligence just tried to put in a whole thing for me that I have no idea what that was. That was great.
Well,
thanks, Apple.
While we're figuring this out, I thought I might bring to people's attention as I was in Chrome. It's rarer and rarer that I sit down and use full-blown Chrome on a desktop computing device and have that experience. And so tonight, in doing so, I took a look at my extensions and I noticed this message that says this extension soon no longer will be supported. And I'll let you have 3 seconds to guess what extension that was. Okay, time's up. It was uBlock Origin.
Mm-hmm.
And I had forgotten that about a year, maybe a couple of years ago, there was this talk of Google making changes to Chrome that would essentially render various ad blocking extensions neutered and incapable of functioning. And I never really looked into the guts of what it was Google was going to change to figure out what's going to happen and how it's going to affect people. But apparently, if something as mainstream as uBlock Origin is slated to no longer work with Chrome, this browser is going to be dead to me. Who's going to keep using Chrome, at least among people who understand these things? Why is anyone going to continue using Chrome? I guess surely Chromium, which Google doesn't, that's the version of Chrome that is just pure open source. Google doesn't have its hands on it, yet it can run the extensions and whatnot that full-blown Google Chrome runs. And I'm assuming things like uBlock will continue to work in that, but just not the Google version of Chrome. Do you know the answers to these questions?
I don't know the
Curtis?
answer to that because I'm going to guess that they're going to push to not have it work in Chromium too. And I just sent you in the chat a link to an article, not specifically on this, but I want to hit this in a minute to go along with it because your concern about Chrome getting more annoying. Don't pick Firefox as your browser to move to, as that article will explain. But my guess is that Google will push to the source of Chromium to the same configuration. I could be wrong, but
How can they do that? I thought it was an independent.
it's just an open source
entity.
project that they contribute to. So like if they want to push enhancements to to Chrome, they can put it through the Chromium channel
But
too.
isn't there like a process of some sort where people who have nothing to do with Google get to
I don't know.
decide
I-
what's going to be contributed to the project?
I mean, if it's an open source project that they're the main owner or contributor to, even though it's open source, I don't know that that's true. I'm just going to look.
So
and see.
they are the main owner of the open source project Chromium?
I don't know for sure. I'm gonna ask.
Can there be an owner? I
Yeah,
see.
there can be. Oh yeah, like open source is always like sponsored or owned by somebody, but they agree to follow open source. Depending on the license level they're working under, they'll have an agreement for how they'll accept commits or pull requests from outside sources. So just because it's open source doesn't mean someone doesn't own it. Like I'd use WordPress as an example of that. There's a whole battle going on in the WordPress world right now over what its status is and what it means to be profiting off of it as a private business. And the guy who, I can't think of his name now, but the guy who created WordPress is kind of having a meltdown over going after companies like big hosting, like WP Host, about their profiting off of the WordPress trademark. But the open source WordPress.org, he still manages what gets pulled into that. So let's see what Google says about their, because like Google Gemini usually is pretty good at giving some information here. But while I'm looking at that, open that article that's in the private chat.
Oh, good grief. I hate having touch screen on a PC.
I've never known it to be useful for as much as I want.
Only a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Owns.
What did you want me to do now?
If you look in the
Oh, great. Now where I touched it, there's like this light
Smudge.
rectangle. No, there's like an actual rectangle on the screen.
oh gosh. Oh yeah.
What?
Right. Yeah.
What is that? Do you know?
Well, that's like its touch box. It's like the spot that it thinks you're trying
my
to
God.
activate
Okay,
a
it's
right click
gone.
on.
Oh, if I long pressed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long press, yes. See how, do you see what a part of my life this touch screen is that I
Right.
didn't even understand what was happening? I suddenly went into boomer mode. What? I don't understand. Okay, so you sent me this link. Firefox maker Mozilla deleted a promise to never sell its users' personal data and is trying to assure worried users that its approach to privacy hasn't fundamentally changed. Until recently, a Firefox FAQ promised that the browser maker never has and never will sell its users' personal data. And the FAQ now explains that Mozilla is no longer making blanket promises about not selling data because some legal jurisdictions define sale in a very broad way. So I guess legalese is going to be now the determining factor as to whether Firefox sells your data as opposed to just simply, hey, we're not going to sell your shit. I mean,
Right.
Can we just keep things simple? I mean,
Right.
you don't do that. You don't inject complexity into a situation when you are doing things the way you're supposed to be. You inject complexity into a situation when you want to obscure bad behavior, when you want to conceal bad behavior. This is human nature. This is any complex system, any situation. When you see complexity being injected needlessly, unexpectedly, and counterproductively into a situation, the only conclusion can be someone somewhere has decided this complexity is beneficial, usually to conceal bad behavior. And this seems no different than that to me.
Yeah, so let me also share.
What sucks about this is here recently, I've kind of just had like this spiritual gravitation toward Firefox a little bit here and there. I've installed it on my phone. I've got it on my desktop machines, and I've kind of been whipping out the old Fox here lately.
Well, I wouldn't anymore.
God, what are you
Well, I mean,
supposed to
the
do?
problem is the problem is they are closing the Vice on all browsers. So like I just shared also the link to the blog post from Mozilla about it too. But basically,
So
it's
their
covering the same-
too long didn't read says Mozilla doesn't sell any data about you. And and parentheses, in the way that most people think about selling data.
right.
And then it continues.
How do you think about selling data?
This even the too long didn't read section is like, what? They didn't do themselves any. I tell you what, this is an absolute autist who wrote this, who does not understand human communication the way others do. This is someone who just doesn't really understand the way words are received by others. Whoever wrote this.
What you mean is like in a job description when they say that someone can explain technical things in a non-technical way and to non-technical users. This person is not that.
Yeah, this was really well. Maybe this person, as a result of not being that, is someone who is incapable of just really delivering anything other than the truth. And they've sort of delivered the truth here, which is that Mozilla is going to sell your shit.
Right.
I mean, this person didn't really understand human beings well enough to word this in a way that would allow them to lie while simultaneously not offending people. Instead, they just told you the truth.
Right. I love the after the comma of that in parentheses when it says, and we don't buy data about you. Because that's what I was concerned about, is that Mozilla is buying data about me when their browser knows everything about me already.
No.
They already know what Reddit threads I go to, so what's the problem?
You know, before the show, you said there was something relating to tech nostalgia that you wanted to bring up. But
Yeah,
we didn't discuss any further beyond that.
Yeah, so what is something that's been critical to our ability to communicate together and on live streams for years? We're not using it now, but we used it in the past. What was like probably the critical junction point for all of those to come together?
Okay, ask the question one more time.
What is a piece of technology that was critical? Are you trying to say that I'm talking like this person wrote that TLDR? Because I feel like that's what you just said.
I just want to be sure I'm perceiving correctly. I may not have.
Okay, so what is a piece of technology that was critical to we've been doing this, since 2008, 2009 in different forms. What is a piece of technology that was critical to our ability to connect and share on live streams throughout the years?
High-speed data transfer over the public network.
Oh man, where's my bonk? Nope, that's not it. One more try.
Well, nothing we've done would have been possible without
Oh, that's true. No, you're right, but it's something we're using right now too.
Oh, a mixer?
Nope.
Microphone?
Nope. Okay, I'll take you to it. Skype.
Oh, that's in my stack here.
Is
and
it
I was
what-
going to say that. That's why I
too on the
asked
nose?
you to restate the question, because I was going to say Skype the first time around, and then for whatever reason I didn't this time around. Yes, it's in my stack. And
Yeah.
isn't that just sweet that Microsoft paid like $9.1 billion for this
Right.
$9.1 billion for this thing?
Back when that number was really big.
It really was. Isn't that, we've talked about that on this show in the past, how our perception of words like billion and trillion has been manipulated, psychologically manipulated, so that just massive frauds in the way financial dealings are conducted all over the world can take place. Because if you get people acclimated to the idea of billions being thrown around, as opposed to millions or hundreds of millions, let's make them think about billions. What's with us making people think about millions? Let's make them think instead about billions.
Yeah, it becomes
So we
thought
got there.
terminating. Yeah.
And then they'll bump it up a click to trillions at some point. Let's get them thinking about trillions, because that way the frauds that are perpetrated globally and how money is managed can be larger, and just the context of everything grows, and it's all nothing more than just how people are perceiving words, but those words mean something. Billion, holy crap, that is a lot of anything. I mean,
Oh, it's
even the number 1,000, your mind has a hard time visualizing something, 1,000 of something.
but you can. There are like go to the beach, put your hands in the sand and pick up sand, and you can hold, more than 1,000 grains of sand fairly easily. I would think. I don't know exactly
Well, I
what
would
grain
think
of
a
sand.
handful is probably quite a bit more than that, even.
Right,
Probably
that's what I'm
into the
saying. Like
hundreds of-
the scale there, 1,000, you can hold 1,000 grains of sand. I'm guessing pretty comfortably. You might even get into the hundreds of thousands. I don't know, but once you get to million and billions, trillions, no, those aren't. You can't perceive. Like think about like why do most average people, like just your middle class to upper middle class person that wins the lottery and the multiple millions, why is it more often that they lose all their money than it is that they use that money to become completely stable with generational wealth? It's because our minds can't perceive it, so we spend it faster than the reality of how you can hold it. So you think about Microsoft spent an unimaginable amount of money on this device or on this technology. And we can get into the history of what they bought, because they didn't buy the part that made it great. They bought a stripped down, screwed up version of it, if you remember.
Back up there, you said they didn't buy the part that made it great. And I think when you say that, you're referring to the peer-to-peer technology,
Right.
aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's go into that a little bit. The old Skype, your Skype instance as it ran on your machine, am I accurate in saying that it enabled other people's Skype conversations to take place?
Right. Yeah. So it connected, in a peering system, kind of like Napster was in LimeWire.
So it really was that simple.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But the thing too is that when you made a connection, it used the DNS of that system, the distributed network they created, to get you directly to the person you're talking to. So the path of quickest communication with lowest latency was there. So like in the early days of us doing this, we had a high quality full duplex communication, and it was low latency because we were getting as close as we could to each other. When not Microsoft, there's another company in between that bought it, and they didn't buy the algorithm that did the peer-to-peer part of it. So they ended up they switched it to a centralized server. So now you've introduced latency and inefficiency, if I can speak clearly, to the system. That's the version that Microsoft ended up buying. So it still had all of the bells and whistles of the social side of it, like your contact list, being able to be in a directory. Because do you remember that? Do you remember the Skype directory that you could go and find anybody on it?
That
was
no
funny.
longer that went
it's
away.
gone. Yeah,
When
it
did
went
that
away.
go away? Why would it go away?
It went away a long time ago with Microsoft.
I guess that would have been whenever they implemented, hey, this is a Microsoft account you need to use to sign into this thing, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So Microsoft, they absolutely don't like the idea of a peering network for it. They want you to go through their system. Do
you remember when that story came out about these two guys who set up a custom domain with, it was a really random, weird domain name with a particular file with a really weird name in a particularly weirdly named subdirectory. So there's no way someone is just going to randomly ping this. I mean, it would be like, it'd be like the random node key that's used to connect two BitTorrent clients to one another. Like, it would be that level of random complexity between this domain name and the name of the file. And all they did was they opened up a Skype window, chat window, pasted a URL to this file on this server that they were running with a weird random domain name that nobody would ever go to. And they just waited. And it was just one guy sending this URL to another. And they just waited. And then suddenly they saw a log of this file being accessed from an IP address in Redmond, Washington.
No, I don't remember this. So what they were doing, they're basically making a honeypot.
That's exactly all. It's exactly what it was. And it was a pretty big news story at the time. I'm sure a little bit
probably
of simple
talked about
Googling
it, but I just don't remember.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't remember that because in fact, I thought it was you that told me about it at the time that it occurred or brought it to
I just
the
don't
show.
remember. Yeah.
Now, let me just go through. This is a quick story here from WAPO, the Washington Post. Here on Spec Sheet, we only bring you mainstream news sources. We feel they're the most trustworthy and never lie to you. One of the most widely used online calling services will soon reach its end after a 21-year run. Microsoft said Friday that it'll shut down Skype in early May, with users encouraged to move to the Teams app. The company's consolidating its video connection application. They're consolidating applications because just what do you do here, would you say? So they're cutting the fat. They're trimming the fat. Because Teams has been growing quickly. I'll tell you what, if Teams is growing, it's only because people's employers are forcing them into Teams because Teams is being forced down people's throats. So Skype was this thing that had this feeling of lightness and fun and just sort of, you could have high quality audio calls with people, and you could do video calling shortly after that. And there was just something really cool about it and fun about it and light.
It felt like pirate radio to a certain extent.
And it enabled a lot of piratey stuff to occur. I mean, a lot of people based their entire internet broadcasting presence on the fact that Skype existed. And so Microsoft buys it, essentially utterly and completely destroys it, and because of that destruction, misses out totally on the COVID boom that companies like Zoom, primarily Zoom, almost explicitly Zoom, took advantage of at that time.
I would say Slack did too, but yeah.
I would never have known that. All I heard about at the time was Zoom.
Well, yeah, Zoom was the mainstream winner for sure.
And then fast forward just 4 or 5 short years after the missed COVID boom that Skype could have gotten in on, we hear that Skype is going to be shuttered, and it is going to be replaced, Microsoft thinks, with something that is also going to seem fun and cool and something that's going to just have a lightness and a joy about it the way the old Skype did back in the day. Microsoft Teams. No, that is not going to happen, because when people hear Microsoft Teams, they think about their boss bitching at them about something. When people hear a Microsoft Teams notification on their phone, they think about some bull crap that someone a couple clicks above them in an organization wants to bitch about. They do not think about sitting at home, having fun doing an internet radio show, or whatever else it was that people wanted to do with Skype, much of which was neat, fun, cool, talking to family all over the world. That's not what they think about when they think of Teams. They think of work, they think of misery, they think of the feelings they have just sitting there wishing they could be back at home, enjoying themselves, or walking around at the mall with their kids, whatever it is people would rather be doing than being at work. That's what Teams makes people think of, which is why Microsoft thinks that because something technically can be done, that makes it the right thing to do, because the technology enables them to roll Skype, whatever Skype means right now, which is probably nothing more than a database of logins, because Skype essentially probably already is Microsoft Teams under the hood. If you were to really get into the guts of it, probably the audio codecs, all the technology behind it, it's probably all Microsoft Teams already. In fact, this is probably more of just a branding move than anything else. But that's exactly the point. It's a terrible branding move. I mean, if there's not like because something's technically possible to do, that doesn't necessarily mean it should be done, because this can be rebranded and consolidated does not mean it necessarily should be. Brands exist for a reason. They exist because of the psychology that is attached to them. They exist because of the public perception people will have of a product or service relating to a brand. When you think of Pepsi, you have different feelings than when you think of Coke. It's just psychology and positioning and conditioning. This is what branding is. It's the entire premise of branding. It's conditioning, mental conditioning, psychology. And this is going to just absolutely erase anyone's care for the fact that Microsoft ever even had something that you could talk to people on, like Skype. I mean, it's just, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
I'm getting pissed off talking about this, in fact.
No, this is the
I
rant
hate
was hoping
Microsoft.
for.
They're just such a, I mean, say what you want about Steve Jobs. He really nailed it when he said they didn't have class. They're just soulless people who lack class, lack imagination. I mean, I am absolutely shocked that this quantum computing news that we've heard about over the last couple of weeks with this new form of matter, this new molecule that
which is I've been known about for a long time.
I can't believe this is coming out of Microsoft.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Wasn't that your first reaction when you heard the news?
Yeah, basically, what company did they buy to be able to have this? Because
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and I don't know for sure on any of that, but like I'm just assuming. That
I think you're probably right, though.
Yeah,
I'll bet
I don't
if you
think
look
it's
into it
something
for
that came
2
from
minutes.
Yeah, yeah, I think that they bought like all the other innovations that have come from them in recent past. Because the thing that bugs me is Teams is such a poorly designed application.
It really is that too.
Yeah, well, I was watching the virtual live stream of their developers conference, and the person who manages that application came out to do their speech on how great it was and all the updates it had, and they announced their new fact that it's all HTML5 based. So it's an HTML web app now. It's not like a real executable anymore, which is the death knell for an application you're dependent on for business communication or enterprise communication. But
why?
Because they're just notoriously less stable, and you can't roll it out the same way. It's just not as good. Like you don't have as much hardware layer. So I guess the other way I'd say it is when you have an executable with DLLs that are communicating on a lower level with the operating system, then you're going to have a better, more secure or more stable, not secure application, most likely, because you're communicating at a layer that the OS cares about. It's getting more priority. When you become a web app, you're dependent on a browser interface first to be running to layer into the OS. So you added this extra layer to it that is buggy anyway with the operating system, in browsers. And I'm sure it's using Edge, which goes back to Chromium at some point. But it's inherently less dependable than having a real application level app. So that's all crap anyway. They've done it with all the Office 365 apps too. They're all the same way. Yeah, because Outlook has been a stable application for years. Like, for 15, 20 years, Outlook was dependable, stable, reliable. Now it's a web app and it's crap. It's annoying.
Let me ask you this then. What you said that all that stuff is now HTML5. So does that mean if I run one of these applications, whether it's something in Office 365 or you said Teams is as well?
Yeah.
Does that mean that like the engine behind Microsoft Edge is what's being used to generate what you're doing?
Yeah, I don't know for sure that it's Edge, but I'm assuming it would be. Why would it not be?
Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
So I mean, it literally is HTML freaking 5. I mean, it's
it's annoying. Like having them be web apps.
No idea.
I get why, because it's cheaper for them. Because when you deploy the code for it, the web, like if you go to Office 365 and run one of these apps in your browser, it's probably the exact same code as the application. Because when you hit the executable for Teams or Outlook or OneNote, whatever, Excel, it's just a wrapper around the web app. And that's really annoying. So why are we going to this platform. But the story I was going to tell is the person who's in charge of that product comes out on stage and they're announcing some new feature that they added. I forget what it was. It wasn't anything major. And, everyone's cheering for every other little thing they've heard. This person says their little piece and they pause for applause and it's just silence. Like everyone, and this is a room full of Microsoft employees and like tech bloggers and journalists, you name it. And the room was just quiet because everyone's like, this is Teams. I'm not cheering for this crap. It's so annoying. And then like jump the next step of annoyance is Copilot. Like they've added Copilot, which is really just like a GPT, typically based off of Chat GPT, but that's changing. They've baked it into all the products. You now can't have an Office product without being connected to their AI, which is a major problem because some organizations or professions, they have legal requirements to not share data between documents. Like a lawyer, for example, there's a whole big fight going on about whether people in the legal profession can even use Office 365 now or any of their products, because you can't have information from one legal case interact with another legal case. So if they're looking at your documents and if there's no way to make sure you're turning it off and Microsoft doesn't give you the ability to turn it off, you could have two separate tabs open of documents you're working on. And a legal professional, whether it's a paralegal or the actual lawyer, they need to know that whatever they type in document A, there's no way that can leak into the findings or opinions, any data from it. It cannot leak into document 2 or B. And Microsoft currently can't answer that question. So, I mean, you think about medical profession, the legal profession, you know, companies that are looking to buy and sell other companies, anyone who has a competitor in the same space that also is using AI, like Microsoft is just not, I mean, it goes back to what you just said. Yeah, they don't have the class or care to think about what happens 3 steps down the road.
Microsoft says Teams has been growing quickly and has a wider suite of capabilities than Skype. What? Oh, okay. Well, maybe you could have done something with Skype to give it some capabilities. Yeah. I don't know. All I ever saw in the time that Microsoft had Skype and I was still using it for whatever purposes, all I ever saw was diminished functionality. And one of the things that was really fabulous on Microsoft's part was the fact that in the past, you were able to run multiple instances of the standard desktop executable of Skype. I think you just had to edit the path that was being executed when you would run Skype. So like you would right click on the Skype icon. Well, first of all, you'd create a second Skype icon, and then you would right click the second one or whichever one you want and go into properties, and you would find the path that is actually being executed when you double click that file, which I know you know this, Curtis. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, go ahead, Nick, keep going.
And there were some parameters you could put in there that would tell the computer or tell Windows, hey, we get it. It's fine. Go ahead and run a second instance of this application, because a lot of applications will not allow you just natively to run 2 instances of the application at the same time. Try it on pretty much anything on your machine. It won't work unless you specifically modify the path that's being executed when the file is double clicked. And so you could do that with the standard desktop executable of Skype. And then for whatever reason, Microsoft went in and arbitrarily changed that so you could no longer do so. What they did to the guts of Skype or somewhere in the recesses of Windows, I have no idea, but nevertheless, they went in and needlessly changed that. So as someone who was an internet broadcaster, it was kind of a problem. So then I found a workaround. You could go into the Microsoft store and install the store version of Skype and also have the standard x86 exe installed version of Skype that you download from Skype's website. Did I say Skype? I feel like I missed.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you said, yeah.
And you could run both of those simultaneously, but that was the only way you could do this. that you could get around this. So that is but one of many examples. You talked about the registry going away, of things that Microsoft did to deball Skype in the time they owned it, rather than making it better, making it cooler. It just felt like they did everything they could to suck the soul out of it and make it bland, useless, and soulless. And many commenters expressed disappointment over Microsoft's handling of Skype, noting that it was once a leading telecom application, but suffered from a lack of investment and innovation after Microsoft's acquisition. Some users lament the transition to Teams, and then it carries on from there. So if, as you said, they did not get the peer-to-peer technology when they bought Skype, what did they get? Just a brand name, you think? I mean,
I think they got everything else. They got all the code that allows the directory and the communication to be there, so that you would have ID of user 1234 be able to connect to ID of user 54321. They've got that, but the algorithm that did the peer-to-peer network and then connected you to your user you wanted to talk to, they didn't get that. So they had to have, at that point, they had servers that it had to communicate back to and then build the connection. So like right now, what we're using is, it's funny how things in the technology world always come back around. So whether it's Restream.io that we're using, or some of the other ones out there too, Streamlabs and others, trying to think, Zoom, I think works this way as well, where their servers will make the initial handshake and communication to authenticate you, get you on their system. But the video that I'm sending to you and the audio I'm sending and vice versa is going straight to our computers. That's why it can be so low latency. So at the same time that it's taking what we're sending it and then broadcasting it out, it's sending it to us with direct connections to each other. That's the only way we could have conversations like this without me saying, "Isn't that funny?" And then 4 seconds later, you not laugh at my joke.
Well, the first time I ever even heard of Skype, it was in 2005, at the end of 2005. And man, I didn't realize that was that long ago. 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think I went from ICQ to Skype.
Man, I had ICQ too.
Yeah, that one was great.
Yeah.
I still have my ID for that. I wonder if those servers even are up anymore. Probably not.
Did you ever get into Trillion, which allowed you to combine multiple IMs?
And what was it? Pigeon too was another one.
Yeah, that was another one. Yeah. And that was a pretty, the Pigeon was Linux exclusive, wasn't it? And maybe it eventually came around to Windows.
Yeah, before the end of it, it was everywhere. But yeah, it started off.
I wonder if you can still Linux. Even, I guess you could still download it, but I don't know what you would do with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's another thing Microsoft broke. You in the past, you were able to use the Skype network through Trillion and I think also Pigeon, so you could do everything through either of those that you could do through the Skype application proper. The original application, and when you would do that, it would download some kind of module that would enable Trillion to essentially Skype, right. And it would work. And then somewhere along the way, Microsoft decided, "Oh no, fuck you!
Yeah, because
that's going away. We're killing that."
The idea that people would actually use and care about your product is not as important as capturing people into your ecosystem fully.
I think that surely was probably about the time Microsoft started forcing ads to pop up in the Skype UI. That was
Not
a lovely
to mention,
time.
Yeah, also installing it by default with Windows, I think it was 8. They started to install Candy Crush and Skype automatically on your machine, and you knew things were in trouble then.
And that's a good point, is that maybe the tight integration between Skype and Windows 8, like everyone hated Windows 8 so much that maybe the tight integration and inclusion of Skype in Windows 8 sort of contributed to the doom of Skype. ultimately, in terms of people's perceptions of it,
could see
because
that.
they just had this psychological again, psychology. It's all psychology. They had this association between Skype and this thing that they loathed. Everyone loathed Windows 8, and that can't have been good for Skype.
No.
Microsoft, I mean, just they'll fuck up a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They just are the absolute worst. I don't know,
But
man. I don't know what their
somehow
point in existing is, really. I don't know why they exist as a company. They just, and yet they're one of the most profitable business enterprises in the world. And I don't know how that continues. I really don't. There's nothing
Yeah.
they do that's unique. There's nothing they do that's original anymore. There's nothing they do that the open source world really couldn't replace.
I think you're describing Apple as well. Really, if you think about
Really,
it.
any mainstream for-profit corporate tech enterprise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Google or Alphabet is a little bit different because they experiment and they do. The big problem with them is they're willing to give up on an experiment too quick. But I still put them at least a little bit better. But Microsoft is kind of like Rome after, it really had fallen, but they didn't realize it. So like they were maintaining, momentum based on their own weight rather than like their own.
And the peasants are
innovation.
still paying duty.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's us. That's a good call.
Yeah.
Even though we lost our Skype.
Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just when I sit down in front of a PC now, it feels sort of like, I don't know, man. I don't even need this really for what we're doing right now. I could do this entirely on ARM-based devices. I mean, that don't run Windows.
Think about that too. So like when we first started doing these shows, I used ARM-based devices for point-of-sale systems, for like small embedded devices to just do point-of-sale, and they sucked. They did that well, but they sucked for anything else. Like I tried to install applications on an ARM-based Windows device back in 2000, probably 7, 8, or 9, and I had an ARM-based tablet back then, and it could do nothing other than like it was a single task device, kind of like Windows Mobile was. It had all this potential, but it was crippled by the power of the device. Now look at ARM. ARM is what is powering all of Apple's quote unquote innovation. Microsoft is coming on board with it. Intel is the redheaded stepchild of processors now. AMD is the one that all the gaming people want to go to, even though they still have, ironically, Intel still has a pretty high market share. But what you hear about and what people are going to try to promote to you is going to be an AMD Ryzen CPU if you're building a gaming PC.
What do you think NVIDIA versus, oh Christ, is
AMD.
it ATI? AMD.
AMD
ATI. That's how old I am. Isn't
I remember
ATI a company
I had
that
an
got bought
ATI
out by
TV
them?
Wonder. I always liked that.
Wasn't that a graphics card, ATI?
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah. Yeah. ATI is AMD now.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. AMD.
Yeah,
so what do you think Intel versus NVIDIA versus AMD graphics-wise?
So I still stick with NVIDIA only because of AI and large language models. So you can use AMD video cards for gaming, everything. They're fine. They're good cards. But they're limited because game developers don't develop as much optimization for it. And the games that do and the engines that do really optimize, they work together. It's very clear. And then the other thing is for like video editing and processing, NVIDIA and their CUDA system behind it is really tightly connected with Adobe and like Premiere and all their products in the Creative Cloud. So NVIDIA still just has too good of partners, and their technology is a little bit better. So I still stick with NVIDIA. There are times where, like, if you're building a gaming PC and you know that all your games are going to be optimized, for their well, first off, what annoys me is your monitor has to be at the right refresh rate, your video card, and also work together with AMD's sync technology. I can't think what it's called right now. But as long as everything lines up there and the games you want to play are good, then you're fine. Like go AMD, you're going to save some money. But if you want to have the whole table available to you, NVIDIA is still the way to go.
Okay. You know, I've really been doing, not a lot has changed about me in terms of my gaming pursuits. Really, I do play Fortnite now, and I've gotten pretty good at it. And you and I need to do some more Fortnite live streaming for sure. But I still, you know, I got to say, the other day I whipped out the old Left 4 Dead, and I just keep coming back to it. You know, this game from 2007 that I still extract a puzzling amount of enjoyment from. I mean, I feel like I'm getting the same dopamine hit from this old ass game that I would get from anything new. The only difference is I don't have to do a homework project of learning how to play a new game. I don't feel like I have the tenacity or the dedication to learn the mechanics of playing a new game. Maybe I do, since I was able to get good at Fortnite. Maybe I do have it in me. I don't know, but I feel too lazy to be bothered with learning how to play new games for the same dopamine hit.
Yeah, so I've been on our channel. I've been playing Marvel Rivals a lot. So like I went several weeks in a row streaming that. You could watch me get slightly better each week on it. But the thing about modern games and Fortnite, Marvel Rivals, and that's a whole other topic that we could get into if we wanted. But like all the games that are out now that are like live streaming, free to play, freemium models, that they're short attention span games, which annoys me because I like something that fully immerses me into it and gets me into a story and a game at the same time, which I think Left 4 Dead isn't looking, and a bunch of other games too, aren't looking to give you the quick hit feel. Like once you get good at it, you get into it, play it a little bit, and then walk away. You know that you got 20 minutes to play it. You already know how to play it, so you're good. But in the early days, you put a lot of hours into it to develop that ability to get in and get out of it. And I think a lot of the older games were like that. And so that kind of bugs me that my attention span is different than what games are built for now. Which brings me also to another thing that.
Hold that thought. My only reason in mentioning Left 4 Dead here in the context of this graphics card conversation is to say I'm playing it on a PC that I built when I whipped Left 4 Dead back out the other day. I was playing it on a PC that I built about 10 years ago. And the graphics card is an AMD R9 380. I mean, this thing it's a 10-year-old graphics card. It's a piece of crap. And so I've been doing some shopping and trying to determine, like, I really don't feel like I'm serious enough as a gamer to warrant spending more than maybe $200 at the most for a graphics card. I mean, it would just be stupid to spend more than that. And I'm willing to buy something used as well. And if you go into the used market, $100, $200 can do amazing things for you in a graphics card. And there's a graphics card comparison website that I use. Just go to Google and type compare graphics cards. The first result is the website I'm talking about. You take this R9 380 and you compare it to some of the better graphics cards that you can buy used today for $100. And it's just amazing. Like, these graphics cards for $100 used today are doing things like 32 times faster than this graphics card that I paid $300 for 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Brand new.
On user benchmark?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm playing Left 4 Dead on this thing, and it's just amazing. Even on a game from 2007, how degraded I'm having to make the graphics in order for this thing to be able to hammer this out. I mean, it's dogging so bad.
I mean, like, I've got an old, I gotta find it, but I have an old AMD, I think it's a 780. I have to figure out what the number is on it. But I used to use it. So I've complained for years about my eGPU that I used to use with my Mac, and you have to use AMD back in the day with Intel Mac to be the best in compatibility. And so I bought this video card, the AMD one, that worked well for it, but it wasn't as great for Windows. But when I switched over to using a Windows laptop, I upgraded, and also I do a lot of stuff with large language models. Switched to an NVIDIA 4060 Ti. The 16 gig version will let you load a much larger model than the 8 gig will. And that card does everything. Like and it's a lower end card. Like it doesn't have the same bandwidth as like the 4070 or 4080 NVIDIA's, but it does a great job of everything I would want to do. Like I play Marvel Rivals on that on my PC and Fortnite through it, and it doesn't stutter at all. But that's not that expensive. Like I think I paid on sale. I have to look and see before I try to guess that. Give me a second. Well, actually, I can look on this website probably. 4060 Ti. Oh, they're saying $579. I did not pay that much for it. They must have gone up.
Well, I think this is a good thing to consider for anyone who's like wanting to upgrade a graphics card in a machine. If you just spend like $200, the things you can get would just the things you can buy and the things those graphics cards can do compared to what you're using now, pretty insane. And like this R9 380 that I'm using, I mean, this is a big fat graphics card with two fans on it, and you know, it chews through a lot of power. And I mean, if you're going to run a machine that's going to chew through all the electricity that I'm sure this does, you might as well get something that's going to make it graphically worth what it's eating, you know? And holy
Prices
crap.
have gone up like crazy though. I was going to say, I have right behind me sitting on a shelf is a GeForce 9800 GTI-X. If you want that, I'll send that over to you.
Really? How much you want to sell it for?
No, you don't want that one. It's old and it's not
Is it?
great.
Yeah,
See,
I,
mean, it's
don't know
okay.
my graphics cards well.
But the thing is, prices have
Some
gone up.
people would have heard that and be like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, really? How much you want for it? I trust Curtis. He wouldn't rip me off.
Yeah, no, you don't want this one. Actually, what I have is a 580 AMD, which is still good. Like you can get that $150 is what they're saying on this benchmark. But prices have gone up, man, because you could get a 2060 or a 2070 NVIDIA video card, which is great. It would be everything you need. But these cards, $300 and $600 for one of them. Man, prices have really gone back up.
You can get the TI on eBay used for, I think, around $200.
Yeah, well, for which one? For a 2060?
2070 Ti.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would be fine with that. That would cover you.
I mean, compared to what I'm using,
Yeah, it'll blow you away.
Yeah, I think so. I want to be blown away.
It will do all of that for you and more.
Look, if I'm going to spend hard-earned Benjamins, I want to be blown away. Okay.
Yes, please.
So the iPhone 16 Pro now is accompanied by the iPhone 16. I don't know why I read it that way, but the way they've got this headline written, it forced me to what I just said made no sense. Let's backtrack and just put it this way. iPhone has released something called the 16e. And is, I guess, this just another cheap version of an iPhone that people can buy?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, the camera is good.
$599.
Yeah, the price is the big thing. So, like, they basically want to put Apple Intelligence.
Is that such a great price for any flagship type phone? Like, any
Well, this
phone
one isn't
Apple
a flagship. So
well, yeah, but I mean, what I mean is like it's still called an iPhone 16, you know, and it's still of the newest family. And any iPhone, I would think, like, could arguably be called a flagship phone. I guess it depends how you define flagship.
Yeah, flagship brand, but not phone.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking more of.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you have to remember, like, on Samsung, they have so many ranges of devices.
Crazy.
Yeah, like, and you have to check that letter too there, because like you could get a Galaxy E compared to what the Galaxy S Those are two different devices.
Imagine you're a kid, you open the box on Christmas or your birthday, and you're like, iPhone 16!
Yeah. Yeah, you get one camera. Software is going to help it look better than it really is. I mean, it's...
Oh, so they made a Pixel.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's got I'm looking here to give a better example of comparison. So, yeah, it's slightly smaller, but the screen size is the same. The resolution is a little bit less, not anything too major.
It's the first budget iPhone in 3 years.
Yeah. And that's because iPhone sales are dipping and they got to do anything to get that back.
It does have an A18 chip. I mean,
yeah, but like we've talked about multiple times, who cares? Because you have all this power and I can't access
Yeah,
all
you
of
know
it.
what? Why am I letting myself get a quarter chub over this? I shouldn't.
Right. Yeah, don't even go 1/16. Because like, yeah, great you put this super powerful chip in it, but all it's doing is giving me AR apps if I download them and games that are nowhere near as cool as other devices out there. So, yeah.
It is probably so ridiculously throttled because the smaller size of the phone requires a smaller battery, which means less power consumption can occur.
Yeah. The thing is that this actually has better battery life too, pretty significantly. So
because it's so throttled.
Yeah, like the base iPhone 16, not E, so from the first generation of these, had 17 hours and 47 minutes tested battery life. And the new one, the 16E, is 21 hours, 37 minutes. So that's 4 hours more. That has to come from something. There is some trade-off occurring there because physics tells you can't get faster, bigger, and use less battery or less power. So you got to trade.
I think
something.
we need to get out of this thinking that tells us phones need to get thinner and thinner. I'm just so done with that. Phones can only get so thin before the practicality of the device in the way it meets your hand when you hold it, it becomes a problem. I mean, we are still, at the end of all things, imperfect humans who differ from one another in every conceivable possible way. So there is no such thing as a perfect device. There is no perfection. There is, at a certain point, improvement becomes degradation. And it could be physical degradation in terms of a phone getting so thin that it no longer fits in your hand the way you think it should, because the physics of the universe that you live in say that things need to be ergonomically appropriate for the hand that nature gave you, that God gave you. And there's also the degradation in terms of things getting so thin that you can't put any battery power into them. You have to, in order to get the 21 hours or whatever they're getting out of this phone, I mean, they have got to be just, there's no way. The A18 is a really super powerful chip. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just no way this thing is probably almost ever operating in its max state. Maybe if you have it plugged in and charging and you're like physically with a cable plugged in and charging and you're using it at the same time, it might. But even then, you're going to have probably, due to the reduced size and everything they've crammed into this, heat dissipation issues that would come into play, even if you had sufficient power. So you're going to have to throttle it for that reason too. So the odds of this thing ever, like for any length of time, even operating at its max capacity, pretty much not going to happen. But I guess that's the whole point here, is we've gotten to a point where this crap is so fast, you don't really need it to be any faster anyway.
Right.
I mean, I'm calling my grandma. I'm going to need an A19.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to need.
Well, the problem is that they've tied so many things that people are used to now to like software enhancement or hardware/software enhancement. So when you call your grandma, her voice is boosted in it, nearly real time. Background noise is being taken out of your voice. Like we've gotten so used to so many things. Like just go on TikTok or Instagram and watch videos people are posting and look at how over filtered they are people are just used to their phones doing all these things automatically. Like the controversy of Samsung phones, when you take a picture of the moon and it automatically enhances your photo for you. And I think Apple did that too. So I don't think it's unique to them, but they were just the bigger one caught with it. But people
saw the videos of people like turning all the lights off in the room and generating a small light on the wall.
Yeah.
Just a small circle and zooming in with the phone and print like it actually imprinted an image of the moon.
Right. Isn't it ridiculous?
It's just such bull crap. I mean, I'm sorry. That's fraud. That is fraud. That should not be allowed. I'm sorry. I just feel like that is a violation of the contract. That's a violation of the contract. The social contract, the user contract, the things being what people are led to believe they are contract. When you have a camera, you expect it to capture the reality you are pointing it at. And when things go so astray that you can aim a little light at your wall in your bedroom and turn all the lights off, and the phone says, "Oh, I'm going to turn that into the moon for you. Watch this." That should not be allowed. That is not right. That is really screwed up. Apple didn't do this, did they?
No, I think they did too. I mean, like
did they
their
really?
cameras are so overprocessed.
Wow.
That I mean, I don't think it's to the same level. Samsung got caught with their hands in the cookie jar, where everyone else we know that it enhances photos, but it's not so over the top. But think about, like, we have an entire generation now of kids that have grown up with these devices that don't know what a regular film camera captures. Because when I was a kid back in my day, I worked in a dark room. I worked in my high school newspaper and yearbook. So I know what the process of, taking photos, getting them set right, but then also still being able to do post-production in the dark room to be able to frame that photo to be better, but to get the right colors out of it. All these things were an art as much as they were a science, but a person was doing it. So you knew where the manipulation was happening. Now with software and happening real time, the kids don't even know what's happening. They just accept it as the reality, which is ridiculous, because you stand there, like, they'll take the photo of you and your family standing on the beach. Now, if it was me, the photo's being taken of my reflection from the sun would blind it and you wouldn't be able to get anything in the camera. But the average person, you're standing there, you snap the picture of the family on the beach. Your eyes saw what it looks like in that moment. But then you go down to your phone, you look at this picture that has perfect exposure. Everyone just looks perfect. And you post it onto social media to share with everybody. And they don't even think about the fact that this photo looks totally different than the reality they were just standing and looking at. They just accept it. It's the price of admission, and they don't know why or how it happened. And that drives me crazy. I at least want them to know, hey, this is not a true representation of reality. And I wish we could have the full control to turn this crap off and then just say, the photo is as bad as I took it. I don't need you to clean it up.
Earlier today, I was watching a documentary about the Apollo 13 fiasco. And something kept striking me. I was watching it in 4K, and something just kept striking me as I was watching it.
Oh, wait, can I guess?
Go ahead.
How are you watching footage from all the way back? And
No.
it was 19. Okay.
No.
All right, go ahead.
That is what a lot of people would wonder, though. Like, why? How could that be in 4K?
Right.
But people don't understand that the resolutions that film captures. Yeah, I mean, it is better than 4K.
Right. Yeah, but still, like, it's funny. But go ahead. Sorry, I want to hear really what you're.
That was a really good guess, though. But,
Thank you.
No, what kept striking me was, God, that looks good. Just like all of this analog film from 55 years ago, 57 years ago, analog film. And I'm just sitting here watching 52, 53, whatever years later, 55. And I'm just thinking, wow, that looks so good. It just looks so good. I feel like we have been conditioned, just as we've been conditioned to believe that MP3 audio, compressed MP3 audio, that removes a bunch of crap that someone decided your ability, your brain can't hear anyway.
Yeah.
So
It goes
let's
back to what you were
remove
saying
it.
earlier, that everyone's enough different that the frequency range is not the same from one person's ear to another.
Boy, that has got to be the truth. So
Yeah.
we'll remove a bunch of crap from the audio that we've decided you can't hear anyway. That'll decrease the file size and make storage concerns or transmission concerns more practical and able to be dealt with. Fine, I get the practicality and the utility of that, and I've used it and taken advantage of it in many cases. But I felt like as I was but we were conditioned to accept it, though, and there were definite instances where in listening to compressed audio over the years, it's been clear to me that this sounds like absolute rubbish, but the average person has no idea what rubbish this actually is. They have just been conditioned to accept this and believe that this is what music sounds like. And this is not what music sounds like. But to the average ear, it's acceptable. I'm driving to Aldi or whatever. I just want something playing in the background. Don't give a crap about audio resolution or that's most people.
Right.
But I'm a snob in this way, and I listen to this and I just think this is really terrible. And I think now, after having watched that today, I've kind of come to the conclusion that modern digital video, even though it is technically on paper higher resolution than anything that's ever been filmed in the analog world, and it has various perfections where there once was imperfection in analog filmmaking. I get all that, but there's just something about analog film that just when you see it and it's a good reproduction of it, and there's no visually
No
discernible digital compression of it, you look at it and I can assure you that 55 whatever year old Apollo 13 footage is far more pleasing to look at on a 4K display in a 4K video format than the same display and format displaying something filmed recently in digital. It's just more pleasurable to look at, and I can't quantify it. I can't explain it. But that's all I kept thinking to myself as I was watching. I even got distracted by it, like not really
Right.
paying attention to what was happening. Instead, I'm just thinking about all these implications of things as it relates to this while
You're
I'm
sitting there
watching it. I
thinking-
even had to back it up a couple of times. It was so striking to me.
You're looking forward to seeing them land on the lunar surface, forgetting the fact that, wait, this is Apollo 13. Spoiler.
Yeah, they sure thought they were gonna.
Yeah.
Do you believe we landed on the moon? I know a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. I go with the idea that I don't have enough information to disprove it happened, so I believe it happened. But also, I recognize that at that period, because I don't want to be so naive to say that there's not potential realities here that could play out too. So I don't have data to prove they didn't, so I accept the narrative. But at the same time, I recognize there was a Cold War occurring where both sides would lie and use propaganda any way they could to win. So at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the whole thing was propaganda. So I'm open to be proven one direction or the other with evidence. I have no great evidence either direction. But there's enough things that make you start to question when you think about, why didn't we go back? Why did America not have any interest in it until other countries said they wanted to go to the moon? All of that stuff starts to add up as, okay, what really happened here? But I mean, like, isn't it proven that you can look on a telescope and you can see landing sites? I mean, like, I feel like there's enough evidence, like I said, to where I have to believe it, but I leave the door open if someone can prove it. I just don't want to hear, like, I'll use Richard C. Hoagland as my example. Like, you can give me all kinds of things that are interesting and you can weave a story and I'll listen to that story, play along with it, have fun. But At the same time, once you're done telling the story, I'm going to snap back to the facts I have at hand, like with the face on Mars or NASA's space programs. Like, yeah, there's not enough evidence to prove it. Your point of view. So, yeah. So, what's your opinion of it?
I used to be a firm believer that we did not, and then as time went on, I saw just instance after instance where the various bullet points I had seized upon in order to believe that the moon landing was faked had logical explanations or were just outright disproven. One of the big ones was the crosshairs being blocked out by a rock in some of the photos. When you look at the lunar photos, they had these crosshairs that were just physically embedded into the lens. And there are a couple of photos where a crosshair looks as though one of the rocks on the ground in the foreground is superimposed over the top of the crosshair, which naturally shouldn't be the case. I mean, the crosshair is embedded in the lens. It should be on the top of everything in the frame. That was a big one for me. And, but that's been pretty, I think, satisfactorily explained by, guess what? The photos are edited. I mean, they're enhanced. I don't think there's any, and we're talking one or two, there are only like one or two photographic examples of this out of how many, probably tens of thousands of photos that have been taken either in space or on the lunar surface or approaching the lunar surface or leaving the lunar surface. I think something like 17 men have walked on the moon.
That sounds close, yeah.
Yeah, all the way through 1975, I think, was the last lunar landing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. The problem is, so like one thing you hit upon, NASA edits all their photos. Everything that's in space is edited. And if you believe the official narrative, they're edited to make them more visually appealing because their whole thing is trying to get interest in space science. So if you're an expert who works in that field, you know they're edited, you know the color representations aren't the same as reality in most of them. And sometimes when you have a large data set of photos you're working through and you're editing, someone's going to screw up. So they aren't helping themselves by editing them because it opens up the door for conspiracy. But it is very potential like that is just a mistake on someone's part. The thing that always used to get me, and then I remember watching a series about it that helped prove to me that it's fine, was the idea that you couldn't see stars in the background of anything. Like, why is it pitch black? And then you watch this person who's like an expert in cinematography, and they show with the same kind of camera on a night in the U.S., or not the U.S., but on Earth, that this camera is, the way it's structured, isn't going to pick up the stars. Like that the camera was made for a purpose to focus all of the light for what's on Mars, on the moon. So like the camera wasn't designed to pick that up. So you're trying to compare apples to oranges, and you're going to come up with an incorrect assessment if you don't know the details.
It's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, like what you just said about that camera. I mean, there are these various specificities that, but for some sort of but for some sort of expertise on your part in a particular industry or business or line of study, you would have no idea of. The average person wouldn't know that camera, because of the frequencies of light that it's been designed to absorb and reproduce, or due to any number of factors, I mean, that could cause it not to see stars over. And think about this. I mean, the lunar surface, when the sun is bearing down on it directly, is probably quite bright. I mean, you are getting every bit, you're getting the full wavelength of energy that's being emitted by the sun. I mean, it is bearing
no
down
atmosphere
on you.
to filter that at that point.
None whatsoever. No dust in the air. No nothing. No moisture. Nothing. It's just like direct contact between you and the sun. And so I would imagine you would have to go to great lengths to make the camera protect itself in order to film in that sort of an environment.
Think about that too, though.
Let me say this real quick. Another thing that, talk about the camera some more. Go ahead.
No, it was just the fact that in the 1970s, we took a camera to the moon and filmed, the surface and the exploits of those astronauts. How ridiculous is that? 50 years before that, that technology didn't exist. Like literally didn't exist to do those things. Like cameras
50 years
existed.
before that, most people had never been transported anywhere in using an internal combustion engine.
Yeah, I mean, so
most people had only ever been transported anywhere on by horsepower.
Right.
Well,
the thing too, that's another thing too, though, that we assume because we've been programmed by our society that most people had been traveling by horsepower, but that's probably not true. Horses weren't cheap, and you had to feed it, take care of it. I bet you most people didn't have horses, so most people were powered by their feet.
That's true. I think why wouldn't having a horse have been some kind of a slight declaration of elitism?
Right.
Almost.
Yeah. If you had a horse, it was working, and you wouldn't ride it because, my grandparents had a farm and they had horses there, and as a kid, I would get frustrated because I wanted to learn how to ride a horse, and my grandfather would have to remind me, these are work horses. You're not riding it. Like this isn't a toy. This horse has a job to do, and it's going to do it, and that's all it wants to do. It's not been trained, and I don't want it to be a riding horse.
And then he slapped you in the face and kicked you to the ground and said,
right.
Don't you ever ask about these horses again.
And then he chained me back in the barn, and I learned my lesson. So it was fine. But like when you think about that, like my grandfather could have afforded a riding horse too, and he had the space for it, but he didn't need it, didn't want it. But you think back to the late 1900s, 1800s, all the way back as far as you want to go, having a horse would have been a horse to ride would have been a luxury. And I doubt that I'm trying to decide where I want to fall on this. I bet not even 20% of humanity had riding horses, but we like to think they did.
Even now, I mean, my daughters desperately want a horse.
I thought you were going to say my daughters ride a horse to.
No, they desperately want one. And I have a place to put it. I have everything needed in order to get this. In fact, I have more than one option as to where I can put it.
See, you would have been an elitist in the 1800s.
One of which is free. And even in that state, that condition, I'm thinking, do I really want the investment of a horse? Do I really want what it's going to take to maintain this animal?
Yeah,
feeding, this is a commitment. I mean, this is it's got to be fed every day, twice a day. You've got to clean every day. If you don't, they're going to get hoof diseases, hoof rot, all kinds of. You can tell what a pro I am. I'm like,
you already know words I don't know.
I don't know. Is hoof rot?
It is now.
I'm assuming there's something called hoof rot.
Call in right now. Let us know about your hoof rot.
412-535-4305. Let's talk hoof rot.
Right.
You're going to have. It's just such a massive undertaking, and it's a gigantic commitment. And regardless of what life changes you may encounter or endure, this commitment is going to persist. You can't, it's a living thing. You cannot not take care of it or abandon it. You've got it.
And it's a social creature too.
And so even now in 2025, I'm sitting here thinking about maybe getting a horse for my kids. And I'm thinking about what an actual crazy burden that could be. Like what a commitment it is.
Yeah, so transport yourself back 200 years, and you have 13 kids, and you're going to take on a horse too? No.
So I don't know. You think I should do it?
I mean, here's the thing.
I don't know.
So, okay, not to go too weird with it, but I'm kind of the point of view that right now, like, I don't know if I'll feel this way a week from now, but if there's something available to you to do that would bring some joy to your kids, and you are on the fence or slightly leaning towards the lazy side of it, then you just do it.
I think I'm philosophically inclined to agree with that.
Yeah, you only
I
live
think when you
once.
measure that against the shortness of life
Mm-hmm.
and the value in availing yourself of these opportunities to have joy and fun and pleasure and interaction with the people you love, and I think you just kind of dive in sometimes, don't you?
Yeah,
This
the other
is what
thing
you're
too
supposed
is
to do.
like, and it's, I think it gets weighted more in our increasingly digital world, that anything that grounds you to the earth and to things and connection should be weighed higher. Cause like, I want to go back to your MP3 and analog thought process. So for one of my kids, we got a record player, and it's so weird to me that I can buy a record player on Amazon for like $15 that sounds just fine, and some records, some newer records, and also a couple vintage ones. Like, this is dumb, but I bought the first record that I ever owned, which was the Rocky 2 soundtrack, and so I bought that again. And you go listen to it, and it's not that it's better than MP3. I'm sure it is, but just like the experience of it is different. The way you interact with it is more physical. It took effort. So like, your time could be spent in a bunch of different ways, but the time to go put it on the record player, get the needle down there, get it set up right, it's just different, and it has more value to it at the end of it because of it. And it sticks to me that like, we should put more effort into these things. Like, not that records are better. I'm not a purist one way or the other on that, but it brought back memories, first off, of what it's like to go pick your favorite song on a record. But at the same time, it was just, it felt different. And I was reminded why I like records.
Well, maybe I'll get the horse, and if I do, we might be doing a little trail riding together there, Curtis.
Nice. It's been many, many, many years since I've ridden a horse.
Oh, God, it's been... Man, I'll bet it's been 25 years.
Oh, it's been more than that for me.
I did a lot of horseback riding when I was a kid, actually. That's something, a little factoid a lot of people don't know about me. I was a bit of a horse boy.
Wait, so... Oh, no, never mind. I'll skip that.
I tell you what, though, horses are smart.
They are. Mm-hmm.
When I was a child riding horses with a lack of experience, horses can detect that. They know that you're inexperienced. And I have this particular...
buck you off of it.
Or they'll just not listen to your ass. I have a particular memory of this one horse named Gray, and he could tell. He just knew I wasn't very experienced, and he did not fear me. He didn't feel he needed to listen to me. And so I'm in the stable with him, and I'm the running area where they would lunge the horses. Well, I guess it'd be a stable. A stable is
Yeah.
like their cage, though, right?
Yeah, stable. Yeah,
It's kind of funny. Like, on one hand, I had a lot of horse experience when I was a kid, but then when you listen to me right now, you'd think I've never even been in the same zip code as a horse.
You could fake
Anyway,
it. Don't worry,
the
'cause I don't know
caged
the answer.
in, the
Yeah.
fenced in running area where they would lunge the horses and whatnot. I was in there with this horse, and I'm sitting on him, and I'm trying to get him to go, and he just will not budge. Because he knows, he's smart. He knows I'm inexperienced. He doesn't feel like he has any obligation whatsoever to listen to me. Finally, after about 5 minutes of me sitting there kicking him with my feet and like yelling, "Come on, let's go," and nothing happening, I had to grab one of these one of these leather straps hanging off the back of the saddle and just smack him on the ass with it. And then that got him to go. And he finally realized, okay, there is ultimately some consequence here. And he started listening to me. But I mean, he was so smart to know. He just, like my lack of experience, he could detect it. It's really amazing how smart they are. All the more reason, if you're going to get one, I mean, the sentient being, they are so smart. It is not an inanimate object. You can't just get one of these things and put it in a stall somewhere and walk away from it, and it's kind of a scary thing to consider. But whatever.
Yeah. I can't imagine because I'm nowhere near as close to being able to get one as you. So it's like even more steps of complication for me. So yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, do you have any other stories you want to bring to the show? Because if not, we might just nip this in the bud. Are we still doing karaoke tonight?
I didn't even think about it again. Do you want to, or do you want to wait?
I mean, I don't really care. I don't have anything.
Let's just talk about it. So, like, one of the things we're talking about doing is just to do some more things to be, and you go ahead and give your opinions too, if you don't like this idea. But did we ever get, sorry, hold on really quick. Do we ever get any callers? Anyone try?
Not one. No.
All right, man, come on, people. We had 10 people.
Who knows?
Here.
Maybe it's not working for some stupid reason that
Yeah.
I haven't yet foreseen.
Like, couldn't even a horse call in? Somebody can do a horse voice. Mr. Ed or something.
412-535-4305. You know, I recall having bragged on the show previously about how great it was going to be able to take calls once I got an Android phone that I could just connect directly to my mixer with a cable and be done with it. There would be next to no delay. It'd be great. And it'd be nice to test that out a little bit.
It would be.
I was going to have you call the phone number before the show and test it that way, but I just, as you said, I thought it would be more fun to test it during the show. But either way.
Yeah. Well, once again,
So you had some ideas about different things we could do.
Yeah. So one thing is you've done in the past live streams where you've done karaoke, and I thought those were a lot of fun. So
that was a few years ago, but yeah.
It was. But I would like to resurrect that, and also, so like with that, I want to see about, is there any way that we could get people to be able to call in and do it too? Like they could actually call in to our video chat and join in. So like I want to experiment with that. It might fall on its face a little bit, but
latency is something I don't see as I sit here how we would get past.
Yeah, right. But I'm willing to try it just to see. It might fall on its face, and that's okay. But at the minimum, I think some karaoke where the chat could give their requests, and maybe you take it, maybe you don't, whatever. But
so you're envisioning something where someone calls in, they request a song, I play the karaoke version of the song, and we listen to them sing it.
Them or you. I want you to be you're the horse in this one, in this analogy too, because no one wants to listen to me sing. I mean, you hear me right now.
I would love to hear you do it. You've got to. Would you be willing to?
I would. Yeah, I will,
one?
dude. I love to sing. I'm just not good at it.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as you're willing, no one cares.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. Like I will sing songs that have the exact same amount of emotional range as I have vocal range. So yeah, I'll do it. It's just it'll be bad, but it'll be fun bad, I guess.
I was thinking that we would maybe change some of the lighting here, make the lighting a little flashy, and instead of just plain white, maybe get a disco ball going on your side and on my side, something to differentiate, and that would be kind of fun. Although the songs we would be karaokeing would all be copyrighted material, so therefore, I guess if we live stream this on YouTube, there can't be a recording of the live stream remaining, correct?
Right. We will not save them.
So you won't get a strike for the live stream?
I don't think so.
Wow.
I think what they'll do is like basically they won't catch up quick enough to it, but we'll just make sure not to save it to our stream. So they would say if we had it live still, that the copyright claim holders would claim any revenue from it. But how much revenue are we getting right now? So
we're raking it in. I mean,
so what are you going to do to us?
How do you think I'm getting a horse?
Exactly right. Wait, you're making horse money off of this? I'm making donkey money, but not to ride. So yeah, I think that would be fun. The other thing is we kind of touched on it earlier with like retro games. Is I want to play some retro games like some StarCraft. Specifically StarCraft Brood Wars, play Warcraft. There's some Star Wars games. Like I'm just going to bring a group of people together. That like one of the things is I used to be part of a gaming group online, and we would play pretty regularly. This is back, I don't know, 2001 to 2006, 7 probably. We played every week. We'd get together and play games. And so that group, at least a portion of it, probably get back together with us to play games again. And one of the things we would do pretty regularly is play card games too, like virtual card games, and just hang out, have a conversation, do the same thing here. And then like trivia too. Like back then we didn't do trivia, but now there's trivia games too that we could play that anyone can join in on. So we're just mixing it up to where not every episode is you and I sitting here talking like this. Sometimes we'll have conversations while we're live streaming a game. Sometimes we'll just goof off completely with no real plan to do the karaoke thing. And other nights we'll hopefully get into a routine of like the gaming group coming together to where it's multiple people sitting around voice chatting. We might just share one person's screen during it, but it'll be just a hangout session of playing games.
The ultimate goal here is to come to you from the shower. That's really what we're working toward. So baby steps, we're working toward that.
I haven't got the waterproof Ethernet cable yet long enough to stretch to my shower, but
look, you're going to want good data integrity
right
when you're streaming
we'll
from the shower.
Yeah.
Well, I think that would be awesome. We just need to come up with... there's really nothing we need to come up with.
No,
I particularly, if we were going to play cards and just sit and shoot the crap while we're playing cards, I'd love to play some spades, maybe some 5-card. I never learned how to play Texas Hold'em, and I probably would have been great at it, but the fact that it became sort of a fad to play Texas Hold'em revolted me, and I just have that kind of contrarian personality where
we share that,
when everyone's doing something, that to me is the signal that I just need to stay away.
Really quick though, with that
Texas Hold'em, that's why I never learned it.
Yeah, it's been 15, 20 years since I played it, but I did play it back when it was in its craze. But I have like a cultural watermark to see if you're the same type of contrarian as me. Have you ever seen the movie Titanic?
Yeah.
Okay, I wouldn't go see it because people were going on and on about it. I own 2 copies of it on VHS that are unopened because I am a big movie buff, but because that had such high, everyone was like, you got to go see it. You got to go see it. It's the best thing ever. I refused to see it just for that reason.
So he asked me if I'd ever seen Titanic. I said yes, and that's when he told me he knows the show is not going to work, and we just parted ways. I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we finally got to this point where I know, because like there's different level of contrarian. You're a different level than me. It's okay. We don't have to be the
maybe
same.
it's not level so much as it is area.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. When I say level, it's like I have my things that I'm contrarian about. You have your things. Yeah, just different words, same thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that'd be great. And what we were going to do today was we were going to do this live tech show. And then after that, we were going to go into the karaoke. But we were going to do this much earlier in the day as well. And, I mean, hell, it's coming up. I mean, it's really getting late. So
yeah, it is. Yeah. We should have planned a little bit more. Yeah.
We'll have to like talk about how we want to do it. What like I don't want to be what I thought it was going to be was just me sitting here doing karaoke while you sit there in your window laughing at me and the people in the chat laugh at me.
I mean, I'm good with that.
I mean, that would be entertaining on a certain level, but that is nevertheless what I envisioned.
So I'll send you a link.
But it would be pretty cool if it's not just me.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to kind of the comparison of it, which is that one person doing the karaoke. But I mean, I think you also need to do some of your parody songs. Would you be willing to sing some of those karaoke?
I think I would. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think there's a contingent that would enjoy that.
Yeah, I would do that. And,
right, cool.
You know, though, I will say
don't do them all the first night, though. You got to wait a while.
I already do karaoke pretty regularly on this app that I use, but I'm kind of a snob about it because, like, I do serious multi-layered multi-tracking and shit on it.
I can imagine.
And so
you're sending back notes to them like, I don't think you really hit this note. Can you go lower here?
I guarantee you I hate my singing so much more than most of the people on this thing. Like I did a version of Dixieland Delight by Alabama. I don't even.
Oh, dude, you send it to me. You crushed it, man.
I don't even like country music, although Alabama is a group that is something that I would say I've always liked, is the group Alabama. Otherwise, I've got no use for country music for the most part. Maybe some Willie Nelson, never really got into the Johnny Cash thing. So I'm not a country fan, but like even something like Dixieland Delight by Alabama, I think I layered 9 or 10 vocal tracks on that recording.
Oh, I remember you sending it to me, and like it was well produced.
I mean, like, I have no listeners on there. I mean, like, no one is listening to my shit, and it's just hilarious that I'm putting that much effort into it.
Are you able to potentially like screen share that app and play those too? Because that might be another thing that's just like go through and
there's got to be a way.
Yeah, like that might be.
But
just
I mean,
as
the
good.
only thing, if I were to screen share the app, the only thing the viewing audience would see are the lyrics.
Oh, okay.
As
Well, that might
doing
be
it.
okay too.
That might be, but is it worth the effort to get that displayed on the screen? I don't know.
Right.
If
right. Yeah, you can just play the audio through. Right. That's a good point.
yeah.
So I know there's apps out there, like websites that musicians can connect to that are low latency to do remote practice
Yeah,
and
there's one that I use with some guys that I play with called oh gosh, it's on here. Hold on, let me find it.
Yeah, I'm way outside of my knowledge on this, but I know it exists.
Why can't I remember what it's called? I even pay for it.
It's called Skype.com.
No. Oh gosh, Jam Kazam.
Okay.
Jam Kazam. I pay monthly to use this. It's an ultra low latency system, and it has a social element to it, so you can jam with just random people if you want to.
So could you share a link of that to someone who wanted to join our stream and pipe that audio in to where they could karaoke?
They have to. Well, I think I could.
See, I want to try, like,
But I mean, they would almost be better off to just join up here on
play the
Restream.io and
play their own audio
connect with us that way. I mean, I don't really know that there would necessarily be a latency benefit beyond what we're getting. I mean, like, this is already pretty low latency. I'm looking at myself speaking
right.
in the browser right now, and the latency is, I mean, it's making the round trip out to the internet and back to me, and there's almost like no latency at all. It's
The problem is you're
amazing.
seeing a local that is,
am I?
yeah. Yeah. So that's why it seems
That
so
is
much
some
better.
bullshit.
If you had a different window open, you'd see it's going to be different for what's actually getting out.
That is lame. You know what? And you can tell, actually, now that you say that, I'm looking at the lack of compression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
in
you're
my
looking
video.
at basically your feed back to you.
Well, that's bull crap. I want to see what's being sent out.
Yeah, yeah. But again, that would cause latency, and they'd have to
Be
compress
okay,
it.
though. I mean,
Yeah. Well, because the other thing is we could look at that video, or Video Ninja might work too. But like, I want to
Yeah.
try this first, I guess, because like the other thing we could do potentially is if it's an MP3, we could upload it to Restream and just play it, and they could sing. I don't know, but I think we just try it and we fumble at it. We're a tech show, but we're not like a tech show that holds itself in such high regards that we won't screw up 20 times until we decide it doesn't work.
So I guess I got to buy a disco ball. I mean, I'd have to do something with the lighting in here. It can't just be standard lighting.
So I do stage design and lighting design for fun as a volunteer in a church. So like I have all that kind of stuff. I actually have some sitting right over here. Well, over here for me, some LED light tubes. So go to, when you get a chance, go to pedallighting.com. And there's an open source like community and company that creates DIY lighting fixtures, and I've built a couple of those, and so this gives me a reason to use them.
PETAL.
Yeah, PET,
lighting.
like pedal. Yeah, like a gas pedal or guitar pedal.
Well, they got a nice little gallery of videos and what have you on here.
Yeah, this is a cool community of lighting people, but like they call them the stacker LED lights. I've got 4 of those. And I can use those to create all kinds of lighting effects that are fun.
I never got around to this, but the 27, it's a 2070 Ti we were talking about earlier. Let's see. I'm looking on eBay right now. Condition. Let's just go used all the way.
It's been used for Bitcoin mining for 3 years.
Shipping plus price, lowest first. Okay, now wait a minute. 2080 Ti. Can't be right. A 2080 Ti for $80 plus $11.71 delivery. What's wrong with
Yeah,
this?
that feels off in some way.
I didn't even know the 2080 was out. I
Yeah, I
thought
don't
the
recognize
2070 was the.
I mean, I know there's a 4080.
Oh, is there? I don't
Yeah,
know.
but I don't
Just
know
a
about the
little
20. I highlighted in the chat something there for you. Like you should see it on the screen too. I highlighted it on the stream. It says we need an MV drumming cover of Tom Sawyer.
You know,
You got to help.
I've never really been enough of a, like, I would have to study the drums for that, because like if you asked me to play some Zeppelin, I've just like organically and natively listened to so much Zeppelin over the years that I don't think there's a Zeppelin song that I couldn't, at least in my way, replicate. But well, there's some that are too technically challenging for, like Fool in the Rain. I don't know if you know that one, Curtis.
No.
Anyway, that's it's like a shuffle beat that's really super hard. But I've listened to so much Zeppelin over the years that I wouldn't really have to think a whole lot about beyond that about how to play anything you wanted to throw at me. But something like Rush, I would have to really study it, because I was never a Rush fan. And I think the reason I never was a Rush fan was because of Geddy Lee's voice. I just never could get past that. I think I just always thought he had such a terrible singing voice. But the instrumentation of Rush, amazing. But I just could never get past his voice. A lot of people don't realize that the drummer, Neil Peart, I guess some people pronounce it Peart or Peart. I don't know. I've always said Peart. That he wrote all of their music. Isn't that?
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't know enough about them though. Like I'm trying to think of another Rush song that I could tell you the name of, and I don't think I could. You could tell me you're going to give me $20, and I'd have to look it up. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to think beyond Tom Sawyer myself, and I'm having a hard time doing so.
I'm already going to cheat and go look it up.
Yeah, well, throw them at me. What are they? As soon as you tell me, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, let's see. So here's all albums. Can't I see songs?
You know, that's one thing also that when I think about Neil Peart's drumming, one of the reasons I love John Bonham from Zeppelin so much, and I rate him quite a bit higher than Neil Peart, which a lot of people would argue differently and say that Neil was the best drummer that ever lived. I'm not necessarily saying that anyone was the best drummer that ever lived, but I always liked the fact that with John Bonham, every time you saw him play something live, it was different every time. I don't think he ever played anything the same way twice. Whereas when you went and saw Rush and you saw Neil Peart and you saw the production that had been put together for their live show, it was very clear that like this is being played identically the same at every performance. I mean, this is programmed and studied, and it is static, and it does not waver. This is how this drum part is played, and that is how it gets played at every venue. Just very tight and rigid and clean and unimprovised. And that was one of the things that always made me appreciate Bonham so much more.
Well, I wonder how much of that is backing to that makes it sound the same every time. But okay, here we go. How about Lakeside Park?
Don't know it.
Return of the Prince.
Don't know it.
Spirit of Radio.
I think I have. Yeah, I think that. Isn't that that?
I have no idea.
I think that's what that is.
Okay. How about Subdivisions?
Don't know it.
These are all retail singles too. Roll the Bones.
Don't know it.
Nobody's Hero.
Don't know it.
Let's go back.
Man, there are some people watching this right now just so disgusted, and they probably have decided that I know nothing about music because I don't know these songs, that I'm just an imbecile when it comes to having a discussion about music. And it's just not that. It's just, I just am not a Rush fan. I just don't dig it.
Well, I'm actually surprised to see that their stuff charted. Oh, no, US main. There's some stuff there. But I didn't realize Canada and UK is really where they did the most of their business. Not Fade Away. Do you know that?
No.
Wait, is that a song credited to Buddy Holly? And okay, so that's a
that's
cover.
the
yeah.
That's an old Buddy Holly song. I forget how it goes though.
Yeah, Xanadu. What's that?
Xanadu? Surely that's not the same as the ELO song Xanadu.
No, Xanadu is a song by the Canadian progressive rock band Rush from their 1977 album A Farewell to Kings. It is approximately 11 minutes long, beginning with a 5-minute long instrumental section before transitioning to a narrative written by Neil Peart.
Great. Don't know it.
Yeah, Limelight.
Sounds exciting. I'm happy for everyone that loves it and digs it. I just never could get past Geddy Lee's voice, and I don't think I ever could. A lot of people don't know. His name is actually Gary, but his mom and dad were Jewish Holocaust survivors that came to Canada after the war, and his mom pronounced Gary as Getty. Mm-hmm. And so all of his friends started pronouncing it the same whenever they would say his name, and it just stuck, and everyone called him Getty. That's how that
pretty
happened.
Nice. I mean, I would go with that over Gary if given a choice.
Well, we're going to do some karaoke. We're going to do some card playing. We probably won't be including any Rush in the karaoke. I'm sad to report for some of you. I may consider looking into doing a drum cover of Tom Sawyer for you. I think it's technically within my capabilities. I think I could play that. I would just have to learn it. I'll work on that. And, as like my drums are right on the other side of my monitor that I'm looking at here now. Yeah. And
nice.
as I was walking past them in here tonight, I thought to myself, it would really be kind of fun to do something more musical from time to time, something musical with our streaming. I don't know.
Yeah. I think so. I think it'd be cool.
The big problem is like the guys that I play with, they are not at all interested in the technology end of this stuff. Like they don't have any interest at all in coming in here and plugging into a mixer and like live streaming us playing on YouTube or.
Well, the chat's agreed to buy them beer.
No one's
the
into
chat,
it.
I'm pretty sure someone in the chat would pay for their beer if they'd come do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to talk to them and see if they want to do that.
Because that would be cool. Like I would sit and moderate the stream and that kind of stuff, make sure it's working so you can focus on playing.
We have done that before. We did it in audio form back when I had the during the Gabcast days and the old spec sheet days. We were using the same stream for all of that stuff. And my band and I, we would from time to time fire up the mixer and turn on the live stream and play our practice over the stream. That was kind of fun. I don't know why we just kind of stopped.
I remember there would be times I would be working late on some tech thing and listening to it and hear you guys come on.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Curtis, you've actually kind of been a stalker of mine on a slight degree over the years. You are aware of
My lawyer has told me that I should not acknowledge anything you say about that, so I'm not sure what you just said.
Like everything that comes up about what I've done on the internet, you're like, yeah, I knew you did that. I was there. I saw you do that.
Well, I don't know how many times you did it, but I know there were times when it would be like late for me that I'm working and I hear you come on. Look at me, because like this whole thing about me calling in the first time, which I just recently was cleaning up a drive of mine and found the audio of that first call.
Did you really?
Yeah, because like with that one, I had no idea who you were. I mean, you had a couple inserts, I think, on the live stream talking about you, but like not in any kind of detail. So like when I listened to that first episode of you, and I forget who was co-hosting with you.
Evelyn, probably.
Well, actually, no, you didn't have a co-host. It was just you.
No, it was just me.
Yeah, it was just you. And so I'm just like, well, I listen to this guy stream all the time. I have a point to make to counter what you said, so I'll just call in. Who cares? Like, it's kind of like parasocial at that point. I know who you are, so you should know who I am. And the cool thing is, I wasn't the only one. Like, there was that guy, because I listened to that episode. There's a guy who's called Boar.
Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah, who called in too. And it was like we both just gave you random stuff. And it was cool, like you became a connection point for lots of people. But yeah, like that and like your karaoke nights for your, was it K-Meet? Was that the name of the?
And boy, were they drunken.
Yeah, like those. Like later on, I started like getting involved in the chat and stuff with it. But for a while, I just would streams on, so I'm going to listen to it.
I wonder if I should consume any alcohol for a karaoke night. It's been so long since I've drank. I've almost forgotten what it's like to be drunk.
I don't even know the last time I've been drunk. It would be kind of fun to see how many.
I
beers
used to really enjoy it. I really did. And then
I did too much.
One time I was out with some friends and we went and had some drinks, and I was about halfway through the first drink, and I just kind of was like, I don't think I enjoy this anymore. And I just stopped ever drinking. It's like, I guess maybe in some people, something chemically changes, and things that you previously were able to enjoy, whatever it is chemically that alcohol does as it's poisoning you on a limited basis. Maybe eventually for some people, the pleasure of that just sort of wears away. And there have been a lot of things, though, in my life that I've enjoyed where just something clicks differently at a certain point, and it's just, it's not the way it was. Don't enjoy it anymore.
Well, I mean, that goes back to perception. Like the way you wire your brain mentally and physically can change. And I think events can do that to you too. I mean, like you can have whatever it is that day comes where you decide, nope. And I think you and I both are similar too, that we have a certain level of self-control that when we decide not to do something or do something, that commitment's pretty strong. Like, so if you wanted to quit smoking, you just do it. You don't have to wean off of it, or quit drinking, or like me, quit cursing, because I got to a point to where like I felt like there's only so many creative ways you can use the F word until you've reversed it back to where it's not creative anymore. And for me, when I got to that, I'm like, I'm cutting it off. I'm willing to challenge myself not to cuss. And it just the way my brain works, it wasn't like it wasn't really a challenge. It was pretty easy to do. And from years of talking to me, I don't have to curse. It's a very rare occurrence. Just like drinking, when I decided to stop doing it, I stopped doing it. And that doesn't mean I haven't socially drank, but like not to the point of actually getting drunk. I literally cannot remember the last time I've been drunk.
I was a great drinker, though. I have to say, I never passed out. I never was unable to recall what had happened the night before. I was always very self-aware, I think, for a drunk person when I was drunk.
That makes one of us.
I think I was always able to continue having a coherent conversation. And I don't remember ever having done anything that I would be embarrassed about while I was drinking after the fact.
Yeah, my problem. So here's my weird thing. At a certain point of drinking, and if I'm in like a big enough social group, I don't know where I got this in my head, but like in college I did, that I need to go run. So it could be like 3 o'clock in the morning and I've been drinking for hours and I'm just gone. And I'll just walk out of the place I'm at and start running, walking. I've done that several times. And like, I remember vaguely doing it, but it's usually something that I have to be reminded of, something dumb that happened during it. Or my friends I was with were like, where did Curtis go? I gotta go find him. And here I am 3 blocks down the road running. And I'm not a runner. Obviously, I'm not a runner.
Well, I wish I would get a wild streak that causes me to start running. I think I would probably be slightly less, what's the word for? Oh, fat. I think I probably would.
I think it's a double-edged sword because I have to drink to run, and I don't drink anymore. So yeah, I'm fat too. I forgot to mention too that I would take all my clothes off while I did that, but that's another story.
Well, maybe we can make that a feature of the karaoke sessions.
We
How about
should.
that? Anyway, this is Spec Sheet. I'm Michael. He's Curtis. It's really been a pleasure to be here, and I think let's try and shoot for next weekend on the karaoke.
Yep.
Or maybe even Tuesday night. I don't know if that would be a possibility for you.
Maybe.
Oh no, that won't work. Never mind, that won't work for me. So I think
well, no, it works for me if we're doing it. Lock it in, everybody. You heard it here first.
Let's sometime next weekend we'll try to make that happen. Internet karaoke, right here. So thanks for being here. Bye, Curtis. It's been a pleasure. Bye to all of you, and